Well, if there's one thing that I learned in over 20 years of working in a manufacturing environment, it's the fact that having your workstation set up efficiently really makes a big difference in your productivity. That's what we're going to talk about today. I've recently been spending a lot of time at one particular work center, and I want to share some of the things that I've done to help increase productivity. Hopefully it'll give you some ideas, maybe different ways that you can improve your workstations and also your productivity. I'm Jeff, and you're watching Home Built Workshop. Stick around. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Home Built Workshop. I hope your day is going awesome. Well, if you've been following along on the channel, you'll probably know that I've been working a lot behind the scenes on building the Haley Guitars subtonic bass guitar. This is, well, pretty much the final mock-up of that instrument. Over the last couple of months, I've been devoting almost all of my time into learning a lot of new skills. I've been working on 3D modeling. I've been working on programming G-code and running my CNC machine. And I've spent a lot of time working at that machine. It's probably no surprise that anytime you spend a lot of time in one particular area working on basically one specific thing, you're going to realize that there's certain things that you kind of want in that area. You don't want to have to leave that work center to go get a particular item and then come back to the work center to do a certain task. You want to have everything set up there and everything ready to go at an arm's reach that you can quickly grab to do your work. It saves a lot of time running back and forth. Even in a small shop like mine, if I need something at the CNC and I've got to leave, walk over here, grab something out of the toolbox, walk back over, that's time that I could just be using to do whatever the task is that I'm working on. This is something that I focused quite a bit on in a lot of different work centers in the manufacturing world where I used to work. We had to do a lot of organization, a lot of getting things that we need at the work center to make the tasks very quick and repeatable and a lot more efficient. So I ended up drawing on a lot of those ideas from the manufacturing world and bringing them into my little CNC work center. Because, well, not only have I been prototyping this bass, as you can see behind me, there's a whole stack of test pieces. I've also been working on making parts and pieces to make my work area more efficient. So I wanted to show you some of those things that I've implemented into my work center, and maybe it'll give you some ideas as to things you might be able to do around your shop. It doesn't have to be around a CNC machine. That's just where I've been personally spending quite a bit of time, but you can transfer these ideas to whatever area of your shop you're trying to improve efficiency at. So let's jump over to the CNC area. This is probably going to be a little bit tricky for me to film because it's not really set up for filming. The lighting's terrible and there's not a lot of space, even less space than there is here, but we'll do the best we can. So here we are at my CNC machine. Now this machine in particular is a Onefinity X50 woodworker. This is not the Elite. This is kind of the original, the initial version before they released some of the upgraded versions. It's been a great machine so far, and I can tell you I have spent a ton of time here over the last couple months or so. This thing's been working out good. Not sponsored or anything. I purchased this machine with my own money, but it's been working out great, and I can recommend this if you're looking for a CNC machine. Some of the newer models even have other features and upgrades and things, and they look pretty cool. If you'd like to watch a video where I'm assembling and getting this thing installed, I'll put a link down below in the description. I kind of did a whole sort of unboxing assembly type video, kind of walks through the steps. You can go check that out after you're done watching this video. So the area that I've been really focusing on is mainly right here. Now this table that this machine is on is a 4x4 table. That's really all the room that I have. There's a little bit of an overhang from the machine on either side, and that's really all the space I could squeeze out. So I don't have a lot of space that I'm working with, and that's really kind of why I started diving into getting things organized and set up very efficient. Once I started spending a bunch of time here, I realized that we got to do a little bit of improvements. Due to the limited space that I have to set up this machine, really the only space that I'm able to work at the machine is literally right here. I can't get to the sides, and I can sort of get to this side, kind of, but for the most part, this is really the only side I can access the machine from. So that's really where I've been spending all my time. That's where I have everything laid out, and whether I'm setting up a part or changing a bit, loading a file, something like that, it's all done right here. So we're not really going to worry too much around the machine. Now, if you have room to get around your CNC or whatever that machine is in your shop that you're working on, that's awesome. I just don't have the space here, so that's why I've tried to jump in and really try to figure out some of these little things that are hindering efficiency. And it's mainly right along the front here. We'll come in a little bit closer and I'll kind of walk down through and show you some of the things that have really made a huge difference. This is a work in progress. I'm sure it's going to change, but I'm pretty happy with the way it's laid out right now. So let's come in closer, jump down here. We'll start over at the side and just quickly breeze through the way I have things set up. We'll start over here at the left side. The first thing here, we have an external e-stop. Now, my machine does not come with an external e-stop. I designed and 3D printed this enclosure and then just installed a little e-stop switch. It's just a push to stop, pull to reset. This shuts off all the motors, it stops the program and shuts off the router. So if ever anything goes wrong, this thing, I can hit it right there. It's nice and easy to access. If I'm here watching the machine, I can just hit that if I ever need to. So far I haven't, but it's there, and I feel a little bit more comfortable having a e-stop easily accessible. Moving down below, I've just got a hammer. I found that I was always having to leave the space to go get a hammer. So I just decided to mount a hammer there. It's just in a little leather loop that I've screwed onto the table. I found that leather really works nice for a lot of quick and simple tool holders. So you'll see that kind of moving across here. Right next to that, I have this little 3D printed bit holder. This holds my most commonly used bits. It doesn't hold every bit that I have. We'll get to that shortly. But my most used bits are right here. Typically, I do a tool change right up here in this corner, or somewhere in this area anyway. So I want to be able to just get to my most used tools right here. I also have some little extra collets and things from my router, as well as this little pin gauge that I use when I am probing the material. That is a precision ground pin, so that way it's really accurate. Sometimes when you're trying to probe with like a end mill or something, if you don't get the teeth in the right spot, sometimes it can throw your measurements off. But I just use this little 1/4 inch pin gauge. That way I don't have to worry about which way the teeth are facing. So this little guy just holds some of my most used bits and a few accessories that I need almost every single time. Right next to it, I have the collet wrenches. And these are, again, on a piece of leather, but behind this piece of leather I have a magnet to hold the wrenches. Now initially I started out without the leather, but I didn't like the clanging that the wrench made when I stuck it on the leather. So I decided to add the leather, that way it doesn't clang and it still holds the wrenches nicely. Right next to that, I've just got another little piece of leather screwed together. Got an Allen wrench in there, a little tiny screwdriver. These are things that I don't often use, but when I need them, I want to be able to get to them quickly. So they're right here, a little bit behind this controller, but when I need them, they're right there. I don't use these that often, like I said, but it's nice to have them right there and accessible. Moving over here to this very center of my work table is the controller. This is the thing that moves my machine around and lets you set it where it needs to be, set the height and all that sort of thing. Really handy, but I got tired of it sitting up here and I don't know how many times I knocked it on the floor. So really I just went online and found this 3D printed bracket, printed it out, holds it perfectly right there, easily accessible. It's at a nice angle. You can get to it. Most of the time now I don't even take it off of there and hold it in my hand. I just run it all right from there. So that works out really well and keeps me from dropping this thing on the floor. Next to the controller, just a little fingertip ratchet. I was using a wrench to tighten down a lot of my little bolts and things, but that got annoying and I knocked the wrench on the floor a bunch of times. And I found that this little ratchet guy really works nice. I don't need that much torque of a big wrench. This thing provides all the torque that I need, and again, just in a little leather holder, it's right there. Next to the ratchet, of course, you gotta have a tape measure. Kind of handy for measuring a piece or laying it out in a certain location. Real handy to grab, nice to have right there. Again, in a little leather piece here that I've kind of cut and shaped to hold a tape measure. One thing that I want to point out too is that I do have this set up pretty much to where if I typically do something with my left hand, that thing is on the left side. Like this little ratchet. A lot of times I'm just going to grab that with my right hand and tighten it down because I'm usually positioning a clamp with my left hand. So rather than having it over here where it's kind of awkward, it's right there on the right hand side so that I don't have to reach in awkward spots. The tape measure is the same way. I'm a lefty, but almost all tape measures are righties. So I've just gotten used to working it with my right hand. If I work it with my left, it's upside down. So it's on the right hand side. So if I need to measure, it's right there. I can just put it right back and keep on working. Moving on over, these are my dowel pins that I use to secure parts for building guitars. They fit in holes in the wasteboard. But again, I've knocked these on the floor because everything was getting stacked up here on this table. So I just made this little wooden thing here and they all fit in there. Keeps them nice and neat. I can easily grab them when I need them and keeps me from knocking them around. Next to that, another little piece of leather. This one has a little smaller Allen wrench in there. This just goes to a particular part on the dust boot for my CNC. Don't use it all the time, but it is handy to have there. I don't have to stop, go find the Allen wrenches. Everything I need for this machine is right here. And of course, at the end of our table, you gotta have some earmuffs because sometimes it can get loud when you've got the dust collector going as well as the router. So kind of handy to have those there. This was another thing that I'd have to run to the other side of the shop. Not that it's that far, but it's nice having these right there. If we kind of come around the corner here, another little 3D printed bin thing. I just keep some bolts and things in there, some extra threaded inserts. Just kind of nice to have an extra space to put some stuff. And down below that, have my little cutoff tool here. That way I can quickly grab it, cut the tabs loose on a piece if I need to, just in a little wooden hanger, piece of leather to kind of protect it. Don't know if that's necessary or not, but I put it on there. Kind of nice to be able to have that right there. Just cut the tabs loose and you are done. Don't have to go get a separate tool. It's all right here. So that sort of covers the front edge of the machine. I also have some other stuff on either side. We'll start here on the left-hand side. Really just a scraper. Sometimes it helps just get under there, pop a piece loose, help pry it off if it's pinned in place, something like that. Another thing that I was always having to walk away to go grab this, I said, well, let's just mount it at the machine. This is nothing fancy. It literally just hangs on a screw. Right here, I have the probe. This is the XYZ probe for my machine. It is also in a 3D printed holder, one that I designed and 3D printed as well. There's others available online, but I always like to design them myself from scratch. Gives me practice. So then I can do the work that I need to do, and then that goes right back up there. I'm not 100% happy with where that is, but for now, I've gotten used to it, and it's gonna be all right. The only thing I don't like is sometimes this cable gets in the way. I just have to be paying attention. For now, that's where I'm gonna leave it. Up here, I just have a little USB port. This plugs into one of the USB inputs on my machine. I can plug in things like just a thumb drive. Most of the time I use Wi-Fi and transfer things, but sometimes having a thumb drive is nice. And this USB cable here actually runs to a webcam where I can look at the machine. That way, if I'm working on something on the other side of the shop, I can have the laptop open with the browser window for the computer, or for the CNC rather, and I can watch the progress and I don't have to be exactly right here at the machine. Of course, I would never leave it unattended. I'm not going to go to the store while this thing's running, but it is nice if you have to step away from the front of the machine to have a webcam connected to where you can kind of monitor what's going on here at the machine. Moving over to the right-hand side, this is where I have that little bin. I do have this little shelf built here, and I built this originally when I put the CNC in place. So this has been here a little while. It was kind of what I envisioned for holding tools and bits and things like that. But it really didn't take all that long for me to discover that this was kind of, well, not ideal. Sawdust would collect in there, I'd have bits kind of just piled in there, tools, wrenches, all kinds of things, and I could never find the thing that I wanted. So that is sort of what led me to start working on this, which I like a lot better. But this little area is kind of handy for putting things like clamps, and sometimes I'll need a spacer or something like that. So for now, this is going to stay here. I may change this in the future. I'm just not sure quite yet what this is going to be, but it's working out good for just holding stuff like this for now. And moving on up, this is my latest creation and probably what I'm most happy with. This is where I store all of my extra bits. These have been working out awesome. I actually just finished up this other one just a few days ago. Started initially with this one, but then I wanted to redesign it, and I redesigned it as this guy, and then just decided to install both of them. So these will hold 5 of one kind of bit. Well, I guess you could put whatever in there, but I sort of have this designed to where it'll hold 5. A lot of the bits that I buy come in a pack of 5, so I can just put the whole thing up here. I've made a little space kind of at the top of it where I can peel the label off of the little bit holder, stick it in place. That way I know what I have. I know exactly all of the dimensions and things. We've got all kinds of different bits here and with lots of space for others. Down here I've also 3D printed a few little inserts that fit into these little cavities and just holds random things, like this is a spare pin gauge, and I have a couple other bits and things that don't necessarily have this little plastic thing. Those will fit in there. I can 3D print as many of those or as few of those as I need. Right now I just have these in both 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch. Just gives me another layer of customization and if I need to change something around. But this has been really cool. I've really been liking being able to see what bits I have, although I still have labels to apply. Like I said, it's a work in progress. These things are going to change and evolve, but I've really liked this. I don't know how well you'll be able to see if we take a look at the back. It's just got a 3D printed mount, again, that I designed and 3D printed myself, and it just slips over this piece of conduit, which runs down here and mounts into my little shelf here. So this one you can see a little better. It's not printed in black. So it just mounts to the back. It'll swivel. I can tilt this whole thing to an angle that works good for me. And there's a couple Allen screws back here. This is just something that I spent some time and designed and printed out, and it's been working out great. The piece of conduit that these brackets are on really started out as the mount for my monitor for the CNC machine. This is just a regular, I think, 24-inch television. You can buy this CNC machine with a screen, but I just decided to save a few bucks on the initial purchase, and I just purchased this inexpensive television. It works awesome. It's not like I'm out here watching movies or anything like that. Works great for what I need. If you saw the video for the 2024 Colorado Guitar Show and Luthier's Expo, you remember in that video that when I went to set up the TV screen and it was broken, it was this screen. Well, not this one, but the one that broke, I had taken off of my CNC machine and took it up to Denver to use for that guitar show and busted it. Well, this is where that screen comes from, so when I need it for that show, I have a very similar mount that uses a piece of conduit that I can just have it floor standing using this TV to play some videos and things. So this is my main CNC screen, but it also does double duty when I'm attending the guitar shows. I almost forgot, I do have a very small bit holder up here. This one I made not long after I installed the CNC machine. I thought something like this would work out really well. This just holds regular 1/4 inch bits. I thought it would work out great, but I hardly ever used it because I didn't really have a workflow down yet. I installed the machine and thought, well, I need a place for bits, here we go. But I hadn't worked on the machine quite enough yet to really understand what was required of this little work center. For now, this thing will just stay there, but I'll probably transfer these bits to those 3D printed inserts on the other holders because I like those so much better. That just didn't work out. That's why I think it's important to spend some time in that work center. Before you go to the work center and you start rearranging, understand what things need to be there. It's helpful if you know how to work the area, really know what you need, and then you can really have a good understanding of what needs to be moved or changed or whatever. Like I said, the last couple of months, I spent a ton of time right here. So I really got a good feeling for what needed to be there, and that's what led to the setup that I have right now. And I really, really like this setup. Like I said, though, it's still a work in progress, but I'm really feeling comfortable being able to grab everything. Everything's here, my bits, safety stuff, all that sort of stuff. This is really working out good, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable. And really, I think we're about ready to start cutting out an actual bass guitar. The Haley Guitars subtonic bass, well, that project needs to get back underway. I've spent enough time here, made enough mistakes, made enough scrap wood, cut out enough parts. We're ready to move forward, especially now that I have all of this stuff kind of set up for now. We'll see what changes we make in the future, but I hope these little things are helpful. Maybe it gives you a couple of ideas, some different things that you might be able to implement, ways you could set up a certain workspace that maybe you've been struggling with. Stuff like this really makes a big improvement in your productivity. Just being able to grab your thing, whatever it is that you need, do your work, and not have to leave the area. Go to the other side of the shop or who knows what. Makes a huge difference, and it's definitely worth the time. I've spent a ton of time on the machine itself, but I've also spent a lot of time trying to come up with different solutions for all of these things, and it's worked out well. So let me know down in the comments if any of these things are helpful, or maybe you want to see a little more about something. I'd love to hear your feedback. Let me know down below. Yeah, that rhymes. I didn't even try it. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. It's time to get to work. Let's go do something.